Sue Smith sitting in for Aaron Rand. I'll be with you for the next couple of weeks. That makes me happy. I hope it makes you happy too. What is the secret to happiness? What is the secret to a happy life? We had this conversation in the last hour or so of the show, and I want to hear from you this afternoon, 514-790-0800. What is your secret to a happy life? Most of us think that if we just had more time to relax, lie around, we'd be happier. But that is not necessarily the case. There's new research on this. Dunigan Folk is a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Pennsylvania. He's been looking into this question, and he joins me on the line. Good afternoon.
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm pretty happy, I think. Why did you want to look at the question of happiness?
I've been interested in the question of happiness for many years. I think it's really the main thing people are interested in. So as a psychologist, I think there really can't be much of a more interesting question than trying to understand what makes people happy.
But it's so elusive as a concept. So I'm curious how you measure it.
It's measured in a lot of different ways. In the study we're talking about today, people were just asked on a single day, whether the day they had was a good day, an average day, or a worse than average day. Other times it's measured in a more broader sense, like you ask people how satisfied they are with their life from a scale of 1 to 10, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's interesting. So the broader question probably depends on the day they've had too, right? Like if you answer the broader question depending on how you're feeling about your life that day. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, yeah. That it does change, but not as much as you think. There's been a lot of studies looking at this, and these general life evaluations, although they can be affected by things that are going on in people's lives on a daily level, they generally tend to be quite stable.
Okay, so tell me, what did you find?
Yeah, so we use data from this survey called the American Time Use Survey, and essentially it's conducted by the American government, and once a year they ask thousands of Americans to describe how they spent their previous day, and they identify how many minutes they spend on one of over 100 activities, and then as part of the survey they get asked, so the day you just described, was it a better day than typical, or was it a typical day, or was it worse than typical? And we were interested in what predicts people saying they had that good day, the better than typical day, and what activities were most important for predicting whether they said their day was good. And we found that things like time with family, time with friends, and socializing were really important for saying you had a good day. So the more time you tended to spend on these things, the more likely you were to say you had a good day. And then we also surprisingly found that the more time people spent relaxing, the less likely they were to say they had a good day. And this was really the case whether you said you spent 5 minutes relaxing or 3 hours relaxing. It was always tended to be associated with a less of a chance of saying you had a good day.
And, okay, you said it was surprising. So what is your hypothesis about why that is?
Yeah, there's a lot of, since this is just a survey and we were just looking at the association, it's not necessarily true that relaxing makes your day worse. It's possible that, when people are sick, they're already not feeling good, their day's already going bad, they may be more prone to spending more time relaxing. So that's certainly some of it. When we're not feeling good, we're more likely to relax, and then we're more likely to say the day wasn't good. But it is surprising, especially that any amount of relaxing still was associated with not having a good day. And I think it might just be that, when you're relaxing, you're inherently spending less time on these things that might be more rewarding, like spending time with family, spending time with friends, doing sports and exercise. So I think it might be less of relaxing per se is making people feel bad, but maybe just that relaxing tends to take away time from things that might be more rewarding. Right.
What did you find out about the role of work in a measure of a person's happiness?
Yeah, so we found that work, when people were saying they were working, if they were spending up to 6 hours working, it really had no impact on whether they said their day was good or whether their day was typical. And then after about 6 hours of work, the more hours you worked after 6 hours were very important in making you less likely to say you had a good day. So, one way to think about this is maybe 6 hours of work isn't so bad, but another way to think about it is we're asking people, whether their day was better than typical. And so I think when people work a normal amount of hours, it's part of their everyday routine, so it doesn't really impact how they think about their day. But then when you start working more than you might normally, then maybe your day, you start thinking it's not so good.
But it's kind of funny when you contrast leisure and work, and I wonder if you could pull this out of the data, is whether or not it's important to do some work, instead of just totally kicking back all day and leisuring.
Yeah. I mean, so we didn't quite find that with work, but we did find that with some other things. Like I said, socializing was really important for having a good day, but we really did see that the most important thing was not how long you socialized, but really that you socialized at all. Like you were much more likely to say you had a good day if you spent 30 minutes to an hour socializing. And then if you spent 2 or 3 hours socializing, it was about the same probability you'd say your day was good. So it really seemed like there was a big difference between not socializing at all and socializing a little, but then after that, maybe it wasn't so important to how people thought about their day. Were
there any other findings that surprised you or that stood out to you?
I mean, I think the most surprising to me was the relaxation again. And it's important to say that relaxation doesn't necessarily make you have a worse day, but it was certainly an interesting association. I think one thing worth noting is there was this broader category of relaxing that people said they were spending time on, but then we also have data on what they were doing when they said they were relaxing.
Right.
And almost 80% of those hours that people said I was relaxing, they were watching TV. Right. So I think it may be what the specific kind of relaxation you engage in that's really important. Maybe, going to a spa is probably really great for thinking your day went well, but maybe sitting and watching TV for hours on end is not so good.
Well, so we've been talking a little bit with listeners, and we're going to continue the conversation about what makes them happy. And one thing that's come up a lot is kind of a feeling of usefulness. If you feel like you're leading a useful life, like you've helped someone or you've, done something that's a little bit productive. And I wonder if that fits into the watching TV, because you sort of feel like, I haven't done anything useful. Did you look at any kind of correlations like that?
We didn't. The data set didn't have any extra questions about like how they felt about the activity. But yeah, I think really it's people have different definitions of what's useful. But I totally agree that that's like really probably one of the most important things. Even when I say time with family was really important. We don't know exactly what people were doing with their family, but often when we're spending time with family or friends, we're helping them do something and things like that, and we're feeling useful to the other person. So I think that's really important. Yeah.
And so, just looking at some of the numbers and some of the categories, like eating and drinking, seem to be fairly low on the enjoyment scale, which surprised me. Or am I reading the numbers wrong?
No, I think eating and drinking was like somewhat related to whether people said they had a good day, though. But I think it's worth noting that it's one of those things we do every day. So when you're asking someone, is your day better than typical?
Oh, right.
Eating and drinking might not stand out because you're like, well, this is what I did every day. We did see some evidence, though, that like people who said they spent time traveling to eat, that was really important for having a good day. And obviously it's not the travel itself that I think makes people think their day went well. But I think when you say, I was traveling to go eating, it probably signals that you're maybe going to a fancy restaurant or you're going out to eat with friends. And it might be a more special meal than normal. And so I think it's these special kinds of dining out or spending time with others that can really have an impact.
As opposed to traveling for work, which was also quite low.
Yeah. I mean, commuting, that's kind of commuting is a bit of a staple in happiness research, as it's not conducive necessarily to having a great day. Obviously, it's something people have to do, but I think most people don't find their commute to be the most rewarding part of their day.
So if you had to sum it up and give people advice to be happy, what would you say the secret to happiness is?
I mean, it differs for everyone. I don't know if there's a secret to happiness, but I think something that this study that we've talked about today finds, and just a whole load of other research on happiness finds, is that it's really about spending time with others and having meaningful social relationships. Like if I had to give one piece of advice, I think focusing on that is probably what's most supported by the research. But of course, there are all kinds of things that can make people happy.
Well, it's really interesting. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll.
I'm coming to get you!
One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's
Bryan Adams Radio. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.